The first thing that you want to do with scaling your baguettes is to lightly grease your bench. And then we're going to take our dough, which has proofed, and do what we call scaling, which is basically just measuring out the amount of dough that we need for each loaf. So once you have the first one done, just continue with the rest of your dough. Once all your dough has been scaled, you want to do what is called pre-shaping. So here, I'm folding the dough underneath itself and then into a ball. You don't need to make it too tight, just so they're all the same. Whilst your dough balls are resting, we're going to get one of these, which is called a baker's couche. It's basically a stiff piece of fabric made from linen, which is floured. You can also use a tea towel. And we're going to use this to shape our baguettes. Now that we're ready for the final shaping of our baguettes, take one of your dough balls and we're going to gently deflate it here. Then take the first 2/3 of your dough and pull that over, and then using your two hands we're going to push that back until we have nice tight sausage at the end. Then flip it over. We're going to tuck those sides in a little bit, and then again 2/3, and then push away from yourself. And then at this stage we're using our thumb to fold over the dough onto itself, and then using the heel of our hand to seal that baguette. Once the baguette has been completely sealed, we can bring that seam to the top and then gently start rolling it into the shape that we're looking for. I like to do pointy ends. I think it gives it a nice artisanal feel to the baguette. If it starts getting a little bit sticky, you can add a little bit of flour, and here I'm measuring 40 centimeters, which is the perfect size for a domestic oven. A little bit of flour so it doesn't stick, and then into our pre-floured baker's couche. And then we're going to be using that fabric to tuck it in there. And continue on with the rest of your baguettes. And then once they're all done, just fold the fabric over itself and set that aside to proof. Once the final proof is complete, you can transfer your proofed baguettes onto a tray lined with baking paper. Just make sure that you have some space between them so they can expand in the oven. Now we're going to score our bread, and we're using one of these things which is called a lame. You can use a serrated knife if you don't have one of these, and I'm going to dip it in a little bit of water just so it doesn't stick. On a 30-degree angle, we're going to be making some cuts. You can do 4 or 5 on each baguette, and this is going to help it expand in the oven so that you won't get any cracks. Now it's time to bake our breads. I have some water here in a spray bottle. I'm just putting a little bit in my preheated oven, and we're going to load these. I actually have some stones which have been heating up in my oven as well, and I'm just shimmying this into the oven. So that's why I have my tray here. That's the baking paper just on top of our stones, and just spritzing it with a little bit more water before closing the door and setting our timer. And there we have it, guys. Artisanal French baguettes. Allow them to cool for about 30 minutes before you dig in.